Hi Livewires, how are you doing? It's good to be with you again. I've got a little quiz for you to start off with. I don't know the answers though. Tell me what you think. I wonder, who do you think would win in a fight? Captain America or Iron Man? That's a tough one. What about Batman or Joker? Not Joker, who would win that fight? Superman versus Spider-Man, who would win that fight? What about Thor or Loki? If Thor or Loki had a fight, who would win? Or Harry Potter and Lord Voldemort? Who would win there? Finally, what about Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader? Who would win? Well, over the last 2 weeks, we've seen how God has changed Saul, who's also called Paul, changed him on the inside and also changed his whole life. If you remember from last week, it wasn't easy for Saul. People were trying to kill him. It was horrible. It's like there's this big battle raging, it seems, between the world and the newly formed church. And in today's true Bible story, which you can find in Acts chapter 12, we see the tiny newly formed church on one side and Herod representing the powers of the world, King Herod, on the other side. And Herod, he started to do terrible things to those who belonged to the church. He even killed James. And Peter, he's put into prison. So powerful King Herod, he is the church's opponent this week. And the tiny church, what did they have on their side? They looked so weak. Well, the Bible tells us they prayed. Sometimes we wonder if prayer is very powerful, don't we? Do you ever think, what is the point in praying? Is it even going to change anything? Won't make any difference, will it? Well, I'm so glad that Peter's friends, the new church, didn't think that. They didn't give up praying for Peter. Let's hear what happened as a result of their prayers. One night, just before his trial, Peter was still in prison and he was asleep. He had 2 soldiers with him to make sure he didn't escape, and he was bound up with chains. And there were 2 soldiers outside his cell too. Suddenly, an angel of the Lord stood there, and light shone all around the room. The angel touched Peter and he woke up. The angel said, "Hurry, get up." And the chains fell off Peter's hands. The angel said to him, "Put your coat on and follow me." So the angel went out and Peter followed him. Peter didn't know if it was real or a dream. How weird that must have been for him. He might have thought he was seeing a vision. So they went past the guards, they walked down the street, and then the angel left him. Then Peter realised it was real. God had rescued him from Herod, he thought. So he went along to the home of Mary. Mary was the disciple John's mum, and people were in there praying for him as he arrived. He knocked on the door, and a girl called Rhoda answered. She recognised Peter's voice, but she forgot to open the door. So she ran back to the others and said, "Peter's at the door." They said, "You're crazy, Rhoda." But she kept saying it was true. "Peter's at the door, Peter's at the door." They didn't believe her, even though they'd prayed for Peter to be freed. They didn't believe it had happened. They said it must be Peter's angel. Peter kept on knocking, and when they opened it and saw him, they were totally amazed. And he explained to them everything that had happened. And it tells us in the Bible that God's message spread and reached more and more people. God's plan to share the good news about Jesus with people is totally and utterly unstoppable. Nothing can stop God. No one can stop God. Herod could not stop God. There is a battle raging, but there is, and there always will be, one clear winner. Jesus wins. God wins. Herod looked like the powerful one, didn't he? The church, it looked tiny and helpless, but they had the power of prayer to their powerful God, the God who loves to hear and answer them. Jesus always wins. I wonder whether you pray. That is just talking to God. Doesn't need to be hard, doesn't need to be complicated. Peter's friends, they were asking God to release him. And we can ask God for anything. We can tell him how we're feeling. If we're worried about anything that's happening around us, we can tell him about it. We can talk to God. We can ask him for things. God is the one with the power to make things change. He won't always do as we ask him, but he often does. And if he doesn't answer our prayers in the way we want him to, we know there is something better than what we're asking him for, even if we don't see the outcome of it yet. Do you know what made me laugh about Peter's friends? They didn't even believe that their prayer had been answered. When Peter was stood right outside the door, they still didn't believe that God had answered their prayer to release Peter. Do you know what the best thing we can pray for is? The best thing we can pray for is for people to come to trust Jesus. That way, we know their lives will be safe with him forever, no matter what happens to them now. At the start of Acts 12, it tells us how King Herod had James killed. And God was in control of that, which is quite hard to hear. It must have been really hard for James's friends and his family. But James trusted Jesus, and we know that he is safe with Jesus in heaven. He will be having the best time now because he's with Jesus. And God rescued Peter from prison so he could keep telling people about Jesus and all that Jesus did by dying on the cross for them so that they can be forgiven and have this eternal life with Jesus waiting for them. God's plans are the best plans, and we can be part of that by trusting him and praying for other people, praying to God for other people. That's all from me today, Livewires. I hope you have a really good week. See you soon. Bye.